Oh yeah, we back. What's up, solutionaries? I missed y'all yesterday. Had some technical difficulties and missed you guys. Come on in, y'all know the routine. Comment section, light it up, hit the like button, share the space all over the place. Welcome to the Maj 2 Ray Show. Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. I share a little bit of myself with you. Pause. On the weekdays, 8 p.m. Eastern. What's up, y'all? What's going on? How's everybody day? Like the comment section up. Tell me where you from. Tell me what platform you watching on. Tell me how your day went. I wanna hear from you guys. I missed y'all yesterday, man. I was so excited to talk to y'all today. So excited. And I'm so grateful. Even though I'm gonna keep it a buck, I'm a little bit mad with y'all. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I'm a little upset with y'all. Mitch, allies are not backing down. Let's see what Mitch is talking about. We might have somebody to make fun of. Mitch says allies are not backing down. You are financially illiterate. The market down 1K points. The day is terrible. Tell me, Mitch, I don't want to jump out there and roast you too heavy if you're saying something like tongue in cheek, but I don't fully get what you're saying. Are you saying this about me? Let me know what's up, because I would hate, like 50 say, if you love me, tell me you love me. Don't stare at me, man. I hate to be up in the pens for clapping one of my fans. So I don't want to jump out there and roast you, Mitch. But clarify a little bit. 36 4 that. Let me know. Yes, about you. All right. Let me show you this. Watch this, Mitch. Watch this. Let's see here. Mitch is watching from Twitter or X. Eh, I don't feel like it. It's not worth it. Anyway, thanks, Mitch, for the engagement. Somebody else jump in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think, what y'all day is going on, what's happening. Let me know what's going on. We got an interesting conversation today. We're going to talk about some tariffs. We're going to talk about tariffs. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things. I know, stay in your lane. Mitch, listen. This is what I want to share with everybody. Um, this is great. Now, Mitch now works for me. Mitch now works for me. When engagement is low, this is the lesson that I want everybody to use today. Okay, it's great that we coming into the, beginning of the month. We're gonna start out with a lesson. When when your engagement is low, like it is net right now across the platforms, right? Engagement's low. The suppression is up. Okay, I put people like this to work for you. You got to get these people to talk. Say more, Mitch. Entire time. If you keep typing, Mitch, I might put you back on the screen. The Osmond says, I have mixed feelings on the tariffs. Tell me what you think about it. I do too. I do too. And we're going to read a couple of these conversations here. We're going to read some of this in this article. It's very important that we do that, because the question always kind of leans to, hey, and now obviously I want to be very, very clear. Tariffs are not the greatest thing in the world. But then the question becomes, would you rather tax other things, or would you rather tax yourself, your people? So that's a legitimate question. So I have a mixed feeling, and I think today the conversation should be totally about that. It's very, very important, guys. All right, y'all know how we do. We need more and more people to tap in. More and more people. The 65 people in the space. Where y'all from? My usuals ain't in here today. My usuals. Where's Rob? Where's such and such? Where's that? You know what I mean? Where's Cyclops? It's not. But anyway, let's read this, guys. Mexico will not go tit for tat on tariffs with U.S., Scheinbaum says. Mexico City. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said on Wednesday that Mexico does not plan to impose tit-for-tat tariffs the United States ahead of President Donald Trump's planned announcement of new tariffs. Trump has said he will impose sweeping new tariffs on countries around the world on Wednesday. The move is expected to escalate a trade war with global partners, including Mexico and Canada, two of the biggest U.S. trade relationships, as well as increased prices and upend decades-old trade order. The Reuters, hold on, I don't want to skip that part. Sheinbaum said at her daily morning press conference that Mexico will on Thursday announce a comprehensive program, not a tit for tat for tariffs. Quote, let's see what announcement they make, but we have a plan to strengthen the economy under any circumstance, Sheinbaum added. Trump's tariff announcement is scheduled for 4 p.m. Eastern. Sheinbaum has so far spoken carefully about the possibility of retaliatory tariffs against the U.S., not ruling them out entirely, but calling for calm and saying the focus must be on protecting the Mexican economy. Now, I'm not upset with that. That makes sense. That's what, first of all, that's what all of these people are supposed to say. That's what an actual leader is supposed to say. Now, as we know, this conversation gets real grimy behind closed doors. As we saw a couple of months ago when J.D. Vance and Donald Trump had, Zelensky in the White House, they get real tit for tat. That tit for tat aggressive situation happens backdoor. So that's what they're supposed to say. But I thought this would be a good time to have a conversation about what tariffs are and what they aren't. Because you know how a lot of people will say things like, hey, we don't know how the American economy is gonna work without taxes. Or when people say, well, tariffs were a thing before taxes, there's an argument that each side of that argument makes. Okay. So I wanted to bring this up. This article, Amuse posted this on X, but I want to read this. If you guys aren't following on X, go over to x.com. The page over there is at Maj2Ray999. Make sure you tap into that as well. Follow me there if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, please. And if you're watching on X right now, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. But I want to read this real quick. Tariffs, not taxes. And I want everybody in the comment section to tell me what's going on. Share me your perspective on what you think about tariffs. Why do you think it's a good thing or a better move or more strategic or less strategic? Share that in the comment section. Tariffs, not taxes, funding America without punishing her workers. For most of its existence, the United States funded its government not by taxing the labor of its citizens, but by taxing the goods that crossed its borders. From the birth of the Republic until the 20th century, tariffs, not income taxes, were the primary means by which the federal government financed its operations. Now, let me stop right there for a quick second. I want to be very, very clear about this. When people say things like, what's up, Bookworm? When people say things like, if there weren't for taxes, we wouldn't have the roads, or da-da-da-da-da-da-da. They're unfamiliar with the income tax. They're unfamiliar with more than likely creation of the Federal Reserve. They're more than likely unaware of the history and they don't know. So they, in their mind, it's not a diss to them. They just don't know. So our job is to try to share information with them. It's just what it is. It's very important to recognize that income was not always the primary means, as this article kind of goes into. Okay. Our job is to inform people as solutionaries. Our job is to inform people, to help them see some of the things that we may see that they may not have been privy to. The school system, and obviously we see in the Department of Education to probably be gutted at this point, or the process has already started. Most people don't even know what it does. Our job is to share the information based on absolute labor, the fruits of their labor, government taxing more of their labor. That's just moronic. They're welcome to think that. But if the vast majority of the people, when you inform them properly, the vast majority inform, okay? Not leave them ignorant, not let the system that makes them think a certain thing understand it, okay? The problem with doing it that way is a bunch of low information vote. We get a bunch of people that just say shit on the internet. Okay, and thing for the economy, the market, the all of that. And and I say that in the sense of it's going to be good for a decent amount of people. The people that can sell you shit, and I don't mean like sell products or services. The people that can sell you that you should pay more taxes. I saw a video a few days ago. This representative, I some of the most patriotic, the most patriotic, and it was the stupidest shit ever. But this comes from people not really understanding and knowing. Okay, and our job is to share that information because our job is to be influencers. And what I mean by influencer is your job is to influence people with right knowledge and right information, share it with them in a respectful way, and let them put that information in their brain, evaluate it, and then they start to make different decisions. Influence is a good thing. When they tried to make the term influencer sound like a bad thing, because for example, right here, we into the show 11 minutes in, right? 11 minutes in, and there's 121 people, 124 people, whatever. Guys, comment. We got if you whatever platform you're watching on, share it all over the place as well as comment. Let me know where you're from. Okay, this 124 people is is like a almost like a college classroom. It's like an auditorium. Okay, 124 people in here coming to tap into the show every Monday through Friday are getting correct talking points, correct tactics, and proper information that you should also verify and confirm as well. But also, you get a way of how to explain it to people in a solution based scenario where you're not creating unnecessary adversaries. The left is great at that. Okay. So today's show is going to be that. It's going to be breaking down what tariffs are, what they're not, the pros and cons. And you should land and we'll communicate about how we make that make sense in the space. Okay. That's important. That's the reason why we have certain conversations. That's the reason why we have a show. Just talking about pop culture and politics and the tariffs, if it cannot be translated into something great for our communities, America, our families, so forth and so on, it's really a waste of time. I don't want to fucking do it. If all of that, I could just be watching like fucking old episodes of Grimm on Amazon. You feel me? So my point is, this is the reason why we do this. All right. Where did I leave off at? Da da da. In fact, let's start here. From the birth of the Republic until the early 20th century, tariffs, not income taxes, were the primary means by which the federal government financed its operations. In fact, until the Civil War, tariffs accounted for nearly 90% of federal revenue. One thing to add in real quick here, too, guys. The government was limited. Sometimes people will say there's no way we could fund the whole federal government now because the government is so big and there's so many. They're right, which is why you should get rid of a lot of fucking government. The bureaucracy, the overreaching, the bloatedness. Yeah, we don't need 80,000 extra IRS agents. Government was never intended to be that large. All right, well, you need the IRS wasn't intended to be in existence. Okay, so yes, the federal revenue, 90% of it was through tariffs. Y'all want to sell shit in our land? We're going to tariff you a little bit, tax you a little bit, not the working woman and the working man. Okay? These duties not only paid the bills, but protected the emerging American manufacturing base from the predations of older, more real advanced. Yet today, tariffs are just an economic hearsay, a relic best left buried beneath the rubble of Smoot Hawley. This modern orthodoxy is not only historically illiterate, it is fiscally strategically negligent. Now, let me first, because I know my Austrian economics people, that's bullshit with that last. Let me tell you why it's not bullshit, or the to the extent that it's not bullshit. Okay, 1 second. 1 second, guys. Now, It's not bullshit because it comes off bullshit because when you have a president, as I believe Trump is doing right now, leveraging tariffs as a tool to get other nations to play ball economically, when the pendulum has swung so bad, so it's railing against China since the 80s. Remember in 80 something an interview where he was asked about running for president and he just was taught. He was like, "Yo, we don't get anything. We spend all of this money. We protect everybody. We not getting nothing in return." And he was right. He was right then, and he's right now. So Trump is attempting to use tariffs to get a lot of these people to, or these heads of state, to come sit down at the table. Now the problem with that is, and it's working actually. Okay, we're gonna go back to that other article that I just was reading in a second. We're gonna share that. It's working. There's like not even a question about whether it's working right now because those allies are coming to the table about that, like Mexico did. Hey, we're not going to do the tit for tat thing, but we are going to be respectful to our own Mexican economy. But nonetheless, when what usually happens is the price gets put back on the consumer. Okay, when it's not just about we're going to use this as a negotiation tactic and you throw a bunch of tariffs. Tariffs are extra money that you, as the company that in whatever country is selling here, we're going to throw a tariff on the goods. Anything as an import from your country, we're going to put arbitrary as number, 10% tariffs on it, 20% tariffs on it, whatever the number is. Okay, that company just raises the price of the end result and it goes back to the person. So there's arguments for both sides about this, which is hence why Osman was saying, I'm in between about tariffs. And I'm putting words in Osman's mouth. But please jump in the comment section if that's not where you kind of going with it. So there's arguments for both sides. As solutionaries, our job is to look at both of those perspectives. Very important. What is the merits here? What are the merits here? That is important. Just being a person that says tariffs are bad out of context and just saying because the price is going to get increased when it gets through tariffs and through customs and it's get bonded and all that other good shit, right? The price is going to go up and the American taxpayer is still going to pay the tariff price, which is there's some truth to that. But saying that and ignoring the fact that the concept of government is too large in the fucking first place and ignoring what if this is just a negotiation tactic. I wish that some of the people that said that, because a lot of times they're libertarians and that's my ilk, that's my, my people, my tribe, right? Sometimes those people didn't read The Art of War, The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. I read that in high school. Okay, The Art of the Deal, I read that in high school, and he literally explains what the fuck he's doing right now as it relates to tariffs. All of the other shit, the anti-gun shit, right? However, it's a tactic. And usually when your nation sells way more products in our country than we, and your GDP is based more or is impacted more by the shit you sell on than the shit that we sell on your block, then we don't really give a fuck. Now, the argument earlier in this article here about those tariffs and keeping certain things going, that also what was happening during that time was America was manufacturing everything. I mean, there was a time when Pittsburgh made 30% of the world's steel. That's why the team's called the Steelers, Pittsburgh Steelers. At a certain point in time, the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, was producing 30% of all of the steel in the world. If you got steel, 30% of that was coming from Pittsburgh. So the manufacturing component was a thing. When you're talking about different things later on down the line, trade agreements, government restrictions, more government over regulating big corporations in America that had manufacturing, those companies left. You can't damn near want to bankrupt the corporation for the government squeeze and then expect that company to still stay there. Because for real, it's like, all right, fuck it, I'll just pay the tariff. When the taxes go too high, the company leaves, the American manufacturing job leaves. Cool, fuck it, we'll just pay the tariff. The tariff to get the product back into the country it's at certain points, it's cheaper than the motherfucking taxes that you squeeze in on the company in the first place. If that makes sense. Guys, there's 176 folks in the chat. Hit the like button. There's new folks in here. Tell me where you're from. Communicate. Okay? So read a little bit more. To understand why tariffs deserve reconsideration, one must begin with their pedigree. The founders, far from fearing tariffs, embraced them. Alexander Hamilton, in his 1791 report on manufactures, advocated for protective duties to encourage domestic industry. He understood that young nations do not compete on equal terms with established empires, and that a measure of protection is not merely economic self-interest, but national self-respect. Tariffs align with the broader vision of the American system, championed by Henry Clay and echoed by Abraham Lincoln. A strong union, an industrial base, and the infrastructure to bind them together. Tariffs financed all three. Now, again, everybody, this is under the perspective. They talking about dudes from way back. What the fuck back? Okay? These were people that also wanted very fucking limited government. The level of insane regulation, governmental regulation. You got local shit, you got state, and you got federal, depending on what you're doing. Okay? OSHA is a thing. So the proper context is making sure that we are aware that these guys were advocating for this, and they had and advocated also for very, very small government. Let's read a little more. The system worked. It built canals and railroads, protected northern manufacturers, and kept the federal government solvent without reaching into every citizen's paycheck. Only during World War I, under the War Revenue Act of 1917, pay attention to this, 1913 and a few years after, the creation of, it's not an accident, guys, before I even read further, it's not an accident that the warmongering started after the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank. It's not an accident that the Great Depression, the 1920s, the Great Depression, damn near 7 and some change years after the creation of the Federal Reserve, we got wars and we got motherfucking depression. So you mean to tell me the United States for 100 and some odd years prior to the creation of the Federal Reserve and its war machine had no Great Depression, had no overreaching government, had no private banking cartel. But not long after that, now we got to be in a world war. Now we also having a depression not long after that. Connect these dots. Okay? A great book that goes into that is the, what's it called? The Creature from Jekyll Island. Sidebar, everybody. I want to give an update real quick. We had a guy in the chat earlier talking shit to me. He's blocked. We blocked him with no hands. It's magic. Or it's magic. Mitch talking shit to me is no longer in the space. Hello, Shelly. How are you? Let's go back and read some comments real quick. Shelly 208, what's up? Shelly, you got a thin blue line joint in your jaw? What's going on, bro? Robert C says, why is there even a debate as to if tariffs are bad? When in history has this been favorable for the American people? I promise you I'm not trying to play you, Robert C. I did not see your comment, and I just read when and how. And we're going to go a little bit into how it's been good, or when it was. When in history has this been favorable for the American people? Point to history and please come with facts. I'm going to read some more in a quick second. But Vin Zinger, what's up? He says, the Osmond, get rid of the IRS. Osmond said he saw that Trump interview recently. It was true. Hi, current comment. Sensato says, I'm a federal employee and I believe I get paid way too much to do my job. I'm okay with reducing the workforce, even if that includes me. I salute you for that. Most people aren't that honest, objective, and so government's a cancer, guys. I mean, it is what it is. I am God says, peace to the God Maj. What's up? Peace. YouTube from Apex, North Carolina. Appreciate that. Media Maniac. Sorry I'm late. What's good, Maj? The Solutionaries from Syracuse, New York. Listen, there are. Hold up, let's read a few more. Media Maniac says, I knew something was up since middle school social studies. It's why they give all of these wars titles as if they're feature films. It's true. It's true. Now, I'm gonna go a little bit further in depth into this article. I think I'm assuming Amuse wrote this, right? I think it's pretty solid. I do think that, again, as I stated earlier, there's an argument for both sides because those tariffs during that time with a limited government made way more fucking sense. You could bankroll up whatever the federal government need, but when you making the federal government do all of these extra fucking jobs that it should not be doing, tariffs won't fucking cut it. Now, if you magically, and this might be the 5D chess that we talking about, the 5D chess that we say that Trump is playing. If you cut government spending, cut departments, slash government like Ron Swanson style, and actually do it. You can't say it and highlight where the waste has been and then turn around and say we're going to keep the same level of spending. That's what the Republicans just did. Okay? Thomas Massie was like, absolutely not. Let's keep up the same spending levels. You guys asked for this to stop in March. It's March. You're still fucking doing it. Now you guys want to push it back to September? No, right? My point is, there is something to government and then saying we're going to go back on the tariff system instead of taxing the people. Okay? The American public was never supposed to, when the founders made this place in the documents, we were not supposed to be taxed damn near up to 40%. If your friend is not the tax code, and if you don't have a solid, way to offset a lot of that and say, let's say you make $600,000, $500,000, $250,000, let's say $250,000. You make $200,000 a year, right? If you got a house and you on point and you figuring out ways to, I'm going to lease my vehicle, I'm going to buy a G-Wagon because all of the things associated with that G-Wagon over 6,000 pounds, they changed that for 2024, if I'm not mistaken, though. They don't let you do the whole lease or the whole amount of that vehicle, right? But a big substantial portion of that is tax write-offable, if that's a word. My point is, if you're not paying attention to the tax code, because the tax code was 1,000% created for the people that know the game, that made the game for you to fail, that was like, get off the tariff system. But all of these things, if you aren't aware of that, and you also don't factor in the context of the size of current federal government, then it does look wonky to you. You are like, I think the brother name was Rob, if I'm not mistaken. Robert. You might say, tell me where in history, why would tariffs make sense? Because where you're looking at it, your lens or your timeline is too short. You're looking at this conversation around tariffs just around like the last 10 or 15, 20 years, because you know that as soon as the tariffs get put on something, that company on the back end is going to say we're rising the prices. It's the same thing as when you tax a local private corporation or manufacturing company. They're just going to pass the buck on to the consumer. So in that sense, I get what sense that makes, or how it looks like it doesn't make sense to you. Okay? Osmond says, private companies cut jobs all the time. I don't feel bad about government jobs being eliminated. Me either. Me either. In no way, shape, or form. The vast majority of these jobs should not exist. It's just what it is. Okay? Let's read a little bit more. Only during World War I, under the War Revenue Act of 1917, did the income tax assume a central role in federal finance. Necessity, not ideology, drove the shift. The war effort demanded unprecedented spending, and the tax base had to expand. War costs money, and it makes a few people, a decent amount of people, insanely rich. Okay? Then you start turning into a fucking empire that needs endless wars, never-ending wars. That's why they vaguely call anything terrorism. Because terrorism is just an idea. It's just like this vague nebulous term. We could say, we don't like them, so we blow up something and say they did it, and we call them terrorists, and then we get to go in it. Okay? The war effort demanded unprecedented spending, and the tax base had to expand. From $809 million in income tax revenue, guys, $809 million in income tax revenue in 1917 to 3.6 billion in 1918. The income tax funded about a third of the war's costs. But when the war ended, the apparatus remained. The IRS and income tax was supposed to be temporary. I'm going to say this again to you all. The IRS and the income tax was sold to Americans as a as a temporary thing, a temporary situation to fight the war. They always say it's temporary. Rewind a bit, 5 years, 2020, March. Actually, coming up on, this was just past 5 years to the date, okay? They asked you for 2 weeks to slow the spread. They said, please, just rock with us for 2 weeks. It's temporary. Rock with us for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, be good, okay? All of us that knew better was like, fuck no. This is cat. It's not gonna be 2 weeks. This looks stupid. This looks like the Spanish flu hysteria all over again. Okay? And the Spanish flu actually took motherfuckers out. Okay? A lot. But my point is, some of us more refined, civilized solutionaries, and not the unclean, uneducated general public, we was brave enough to say no. They asked you for 2 weeks to slow the spread. That shit turned into 2 years of absolute bullshit. 1,000%. Okay? Let's pick up another one. Remember after 9/11, they was like, we're going to make the TSA. The TSA was supposed to be temporary. It's not. It's not. Still here. Robert C. says, modern American economy is service-based in the 1800s, 1900s. Tariffs protected a manufacturing-heavy workforce. Today, most jobs are in services, tech, logistics, healthcare, and ed, and not factories. I'm not disagreeing with you, my brother. That's context that matters. Well, what you initially said was, when in history. That's what you said. I'm just answering when it was. And I'm also saying, to the same extent right now with overbloated government, because if you don't slash federal government, and if you try this, the American taxpayer is still going to get hit up. And I also started, you might have tapped in a little bit later, Robert. I also said, most times, what I see Trump doing right now, based on when I read The Art of the Deal when I was in high school, this is a negotiation tactic. I'm not mad at the negotiation tactic. As it looks, everybody he tried this on, even when everybody knows this, what he's doing, their GDP is still heavily dependent on the shit we sell, not the other fucking way around. Let me tell y'all a quick story. Back in the day, when China and Britain was having issues, way back in the day, Britain was still getting a tea from China. China makes a lot of tea, okay? Britain was like, nah, it's cool. We're going to keep buying the tea from you. And then when it was time for them to buy shit from Britain, they was just like, nah, we don't have anything that we make. We need. We're going to keep selling you this fucking tea, though. If your economy is dependent, GDP, sales, transaction, we got the upper hand. What Trump say to, what's the name? You don't have the cards. You don't have the cards. And in this tariff situation as a negotiation tactic, the American government has the cards. Now, do I think that this shit would work in mass with overreaching government and overbloated government? Absolutely not. Do I recognize that manufacturing was a big part of it? Yes, then. It should still be now, though. That's what I'm trying to overall tell you. There's a reason why China's a powerhouse. And I get it. They're mostly agrarian. I'm not acting like China, every single section of China is 1,000% fucking state of the art. It's not. But they make shit. They make shit. Okay? When America is making shit, America is solid. This isn't complicated. And tariffs, or at least the threat of tariffs as a negotiation tactic to go that way. But let's be very clear. As solutionaries, we call balls and strikes. Tariffs at this juncture in the game, without massive changes in other areas, creates a serious problem for the American consumer and taxpayer. Who disagrees with me on that? Because I don't want anybody to feel like I failed to clarify that in my position. Our job is to argue both sides to figure out what is the most productive from each side and make sure we're articulating that in our following. That's what y'all tap into the show for. Okay? Media maniacs, and I agree. Manufacturing is not the U.S.'s strength at the moment. America should be manufacturing shit, and America would be a more powerful nation. Just like we say, drill, baby, drill. You should manufacture, baby, manufacture. That was one of our strengths, but government got involved, and China caught up because we weren't manufacturing. I said to y'all earlier, steel is a raw material that every nation needs. The city of Pittsburgh was producing 30% of the entire planet's steel. One city. We got away from that. If we not chasing and trying to be the world police and trying to be the empire, it would be much better for our nation. We got two big ass oceans. Our neighbors to the north and south are weaker than us. We good. We could be Wakanda. I keep saying this. But now, does the American work ethic and the grit, did we lose that? We're in the hard times that weak men made. Can we get strong again? I believe that manufacturing is a part of it. But let's get a little bit more. The war, I got to read this again. The war effort demanded unprecedented spending, and the tax base had to expand from 809 million to in 1917, and in 1 year it jumped from 809 million with the M to 3.6 billion in 1918. 1 year. The income tax funded about a third, and that was a third of the war's costs. But when the war ended, the apparatus remained. By the mid-20th century, tariffs had been relegated to the margins. The catalyst was noble. The post-World War II reconstruction effort, with Europe reduced to rubble and Japan vanquished, the United States slashed its tariffs under the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT, in part to speed global recovery. The Marshall Plan rebuilt Europe, while low American duties invited exports from friendly nations. In the Cold War calculus, prosperity was preferable to Soviet sympathies. And America came up after that shit. Came up. Global reserve currency, we getting it. We getting it. And we're not necessarily the same level of world's police that we on right now. We on goofy right now. Okay? But this charity was not reciprocal. While the United States cut its tariff rates, now hovering at a mere 2 to 3%, other nations built their economies behind high walls. India maintains an average applied tariff of 17.5%. South Korea's is over 13%. Even China, long champion of free trade and Devosian fantasy, employs tariffs strategically and relentlessly. The result, a world where American markets are open, its rivals are protected, and its industries are outsourced. Your industry is now outsourced to them countries. They invited you in. Make it here. Make it here. You're still tariffing us on shit that we ship there. And that's because, and I got to be honest, a lot of so-called conservatives, Republicans, let's say call it that way. Republicans was down with this. Your rivals are protected and they make shit. Indonesia. What's another one? Pakistan. Bangladesh is on a fucking come up on the manufacturing tip. A lot of your favorite big ass companies are setting up in Bangladesh, like the producer's name. I'm telling y'all, they kept manufacturing. So it wasn't the manufacturing era is over. It wasn't fucking that. Thailand, Vietnam. It wasn't like, niggas, motherfucking, like, we don't need to make shit. That wasn't what it was. America got soft and the corporations left and we didn't continue to rebuild. And they doing the same shit with the American farmer. Listen, guys. This is the government doing this shit. So, a world where American markets are open, its rivals are protected, and its industries are outsourced. This imbalance was not inevitable. It was a choice and a costly one. American policymakers, spooked by the memory of the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930, chose to forget the century of success that preceded it. To be clear, Smoot-Hawley was a blunder, a panicked overcorrection during a global depression, passed with nation or consideration of international consequences. But to dismiss all tariffs on account of Smoot-Hawley is akin to rejecting because one a new tariff would not wait. Before I even go further, I want to be clear. I want to say this too. This also in this section so far, and maybe even in the the vast majority of this article, it's making tariffs look real fucking like perfect. And I have to keep reiterating this point. Under current situations, who's doing our manufacturing? Who are we internationally tied to? You have been addicted to international production of your fucking life for 40 years now. Your infrastructure, bridges in America are falling apart. You don't have the manufacturing infrastructure like China decided to say this is what we're gonna do. And we're gonna do it for cheap. And they bought off some of your politicians to be okay with that. The pride in American manufactured, American made was sold. So this article does do a good job of saying what happened prior to, but I challenge this concept, or I'll say it this way. Even if we went to tariffs, right, without changing some other things, I'm going to keep hammering this point. It might not be all roses. This makes it kind of look like roses so far. Tell me if y'all agree or disagree in the chat. Robert C. says, in a service-driven, interconnected economy, like I said, who are we doing business with? Who are we connected with? Okay? Tariffs offer limited job protection while creating broader inflation and economic instability, making them an outdated tool for addressing modern trade. I'm more inclined to agree with you than maybe you might accept right now, Robert. I'm not disagreeing. Like Chernobyl happened, and motherfuckers is like, hell no, not nuclear. When it's a renewable energy source that. So with tariffs, we can't ignore when it did work without going, yeah, it worked then, and why? What did we get away from? And are some of these things that we need to get back to? I get addressing modern trade, but the fact that these nations that are not as evolved as us, right, said we still gonna make shit, and we aren't making shit, and they're tariffing the fuck out of us, and we giving our shit away for free all the time, like NATO. Why every time some shit happen, we the ones putting up the bill ships? Y'all don't got no ships. Well, maybe y'all should pay us for that. Tell me where I'm wrong in the chat. I'm being very objective, but it's the same thing. So I am a fan of these as negotiation tactics. Because even if like every sports player or person that used to play sports they know your play. NBA players study the other teams relentlessly. They know what plays you're running. LeBron knows the play that you're running. Okay? How well do you execute? And in a space where you and your economy is reliant on the stuff that we have to sell, we got the cards. So, a new tariff policy would not repeat that mistake. It would be targeted, transparent, and tethered to fiscal responsibility. Maybe. Consider the math. It's approximately $3 trillion in annual imports. Even modest tariff increases could generate meaningful revenue. Raising the average rate to 17.5, India's level, could yield over $500 billion per year. At 34%, revenue approaches $1 trillion. Even accounting for decreased import volumes due to price sensitivity. This is not mere speculation, but grounded in established economic models. I'm not mad at that. However, that buck don't stop just at the tariff. Do that money, how does that money get circulated back into the American economy? Or is y'all just trying to start another forever war? All of these things got to be looked at from various perspectives. And could that revenue fund? Aha. Conservative proposals suggest using it to eliminate taxes on tips, overtime, Social Security, and incomes under $150,000. I'm not a fan of that. I don't want the fucking IRS and income tax at all. At all. That's just me. I'm just reading what y'all this says here. But me, it should be fucking gone. Figure it the fuck out. For working Americans, this would mean immediate relief, higher take-home pay without the accompanying inflation of government debt. In essence, tariff becomes a fiscal swap. Tax goods at the border instead of taxing wages at the wallet. Critics raised familiar objections. Won't tariffs raise prices? And they could. And let's not pretend like it won't. 36 people watching on YouTube. I want all my YouTube solutionaries to hit the like button. Ain't nobody giving no super chat. Ain't nobody supporting the work. Damn, y'all. Anyway, givesendgo.com/solutionary, guys. We need $3,300 to hit our next benchmark. We got 2 benchmarks left. Guys, please support the work. Givesendgo.com/solutionary. Bookworm, toss that up on the screen so I can put that up there for everybody to hit and tag. Don't just say you're going to do it later. Support the work, guys. These classes, the Buying the Solutionary Center, and if you get some value from the show, I'm able to do the show because I'm not 1,000% at the Solutionary Center right now. I'm trapped in the RV, but this is the importance of it. We talk about tariffs. We're talking about me not taking government funds, which is tax dollars, right? Voluntary association, guys. Let's these conversations that we're having, the value that we all get from them. Please support the work. The link is right there. It's in the comment section. And it's right there on the screen. GiveSingo.com/solutionary. Let's get 10 folks from this tonight to donate at the $100 level. And I'm going to email you, me directly. I'm going to email you lifetime access to the Solutionary 9 programs, classes, curriculums, all of the shit that comes with it. All right. I got to say this because we need help, guys. Support the work. That link is right there. Anyway, critics raise familiar objections. Won't tariffs raise prices? Possibly, but modestly. Estimates range from 1.4 to 5.1% increase. I don't know where the fuck they got them estimates from. So I'm just reading, but I don't know about that. Okay, and maybe they'll say it a little bit more, depending on the product and availability of domestic substitutes. But these costs must be weighed against the benefits: a revitalized manufacturing sector, decreased reliance on hostile supply chains, and the restoration of economic sovereignty. Moreover, if tariff revenue funds tax cuts for the working class, the net effect could be positive, particularly when paired with strategic exemptions for essentials and non-substitutable imports. Others warn of retaliation. Robert has a good point here. We're still waiting on the trickle-down dollars. Listen, my challenge to these things, and theory, I like it. Historically, I know it has worked. There were other serious issues. When you got a young manufacturing nation where the whole thing is this industrial, it's a lot more competitive. But we ain't got that much industry the same way now because, again, we outsourced it all. So when it's overreaching government, and I'm going to keep repeating this, I want everybody to understand that, we cannot do one without looking at the other. Overreaching federal government, the vast majority of those jobs should not exist. When Elon bought Twitter and renamed it X, he got rid of whole sections of servers. He fired 60% of the Twitter staff. 60. And X has been humming along fine. Some of you are watching on X right now. Okay? But if you do this tariff thing, ignoring the overreaching government and the budget that it entails, without cutting that, and without addressing the manufacturing crisis, I'm going to call it a crisis. If you do that, it's a moot point. You killing the flies and leaving the garbage. The rotten garbage got larvae and maggots, and they're going to turn into flies again in a matter of time. Can't have one without the other. Got to talk about that. And that means all Americans recognizing that for what it is. Others warn of retaliation. They forget that America is the largest consumer market in the world. It is not without leverage. In past trade disputes, even retaliatory tariffs often lag bite. Canada's response to U.S. tariffs targeted politically symbolic items like bourbon and Harley Davidsons, not core strategic sectors. And that's true. In the realm of global trade, every saber rattles, few are eager to start a war of attrition with their best customer. And that's true. You Americans are the most consumed in everything. You'll buy a gang of useless shit. And they selling useless shit. Let's switch again. Let's go to what Mexico just said about this. Let's read it. Let's read it. Scheinbaum said at her daily morning press conference that Mexico will on Thursday announce a comprehensive program, not a tit for tat, on tariffs. Mexico got a cave. And I think Trump know that. The only thing that could change that leverage is if Americans stop being such serious consumers. And I don't see that happening for a very long time. You're addicted. You're addicted. Okay? The leader, who enjoys approval ratings over 80%, has won plaudits for her handling of Trump and has steered clear of the war of words approach taken by Canadian leaders. The Canadian leaders, which was Trudeau at the time, that shit was stupid. They were taking bottles of bourbon off the shelf in the store that they already had fucking paid for. Once I seen that, I knew it was a symbolic gesture. You flash dancing, you just showing the gun. You ain't gonna shoot shit. You a pump faker. You ain't trying to dunk. You pump faking. All I gotta do is recognize the pump fake. You taking the fuck. You already paid for that. I don't care what you do with it. Okay. But economists have no doubt that substantial U.S. tariffs could hurt the Mexican economy, broadly predicting a recession if they are kept in place for an extended period. It doesn't matter if I tell you to play. I'm gonna run the play and execute it well. You don't have the cards. Canada or Mexico don't have the fucking cards. 30 years of free trade agreements between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico have closely integrated the three economies and built a manufacturing base in Mexico that is massively reliant on exporting to the United States. Mexico's government reduced its growth forecast for the year between 1.5 and 2.3% on Tuesday, but that remains rosier than estimates by the private sector and the country's central bank amid concerns Mexico is on the precipice of a recession. Guys, a recession. When the cards are in your favor, solutionaries, I think that's a cool place for us to start wrapping up. I am a fan of tariffs as the negotiation tactic for these reasons. It doesn't matter if you know if I'm bluffing or not. If I can bluff you for long enough, I can beat you. It's poker. And I don't have to do this forever. I just have to do it long enough that your economy starts taking a hit. We, my team, and my guys buy a lot of your shit. Your entire infrastructure, like the federal government's, is based on a tax base and slavishly taxing American citizens. But just like that happens, you and your economies are slavishly addicted to the products that our people buy. Just like our people are slavishly addicted to consumerism. I don't gotta do this forever. I just gotta wait you out. And the smart thing by pressing that way is you get them to come to the negotiating table very, very quick and early. Okay, guys? I'm not mad at this as a negotiation tactic. The thing that we should be concerned about is, are we not telling Americans the entire truth? Are we not telling Americans that this, if pressed long enough, does not feed this monster that the federal government has become? The bigger lesson for that there, though, is we should not be advocating for more federal government. So when you hear somebody say, oh, the people that are smashing Teslas should be tried as domestic terrorists and the FBI should get involved. No, local police should be getting involved and doing their job. That's the bigger key there. That's the takeaway. That's our job, to make sure that we're communicating that effectively. There are pros to this negotiation situation. The cards are in our favor. But doing this tariff scenario for too long, not acknowledging the real cancer, our over-consumerism, our dependency on manufacturing from other nations, namely China, Thailand, Taiwan, Vietnam, India, Bangladesh, and this mentality that America can't manufacture again. Those are that's the fucking three-headed monster that if we are not very, very careful, will destroy us, our economy, our way of life, and potentially this little comfortable space that we live in. Guys, I want to thank you all for tapping in tonight. Welcome again to everybody that's new. Hit the like button, share this space all over the place. Guys, givesendgo.com/solutionary. If you got some perspective, some good talking points to shaping, to communicate with your following, if you got some value from the space or the show tonight, please, guys, do me two favors. One, subscribe to all of the channels. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to it. If you're not subscribed to it and you're watching it on X, subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Maj2Ray. And regardless of where you're watching this from, share the space all over the place, cost you nothing. And also, guys, I need everybody, hit that button, support the work. I cannot keep doing and all of these different things if you guys don't want it. You show that love, and supporting our overall work. Firearm safety, Second Amendment teaching, civics, conflict resolution, stop the bleed classes in Philadelphia and all around the country. The last remaining two benchmarks is for us to buy our building. givesendgo.com/solutionary. It's the link right there. On X, it's my pinned post. Hit that video, see what's happening, see more about our work, and support that work. givesendgo.com/solutionary. Thank you all for tapping in. I will see you all tomorrow. Same time, same channel. Be safe, be solutionary.